Ms. Warbelow.
Thank you. On behalf of the Human Rights Campaign, the nation's largest civil rights advocacy organization for lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer people, I'm honored to be here before you today, representing our nearly 2 million members and supporters nationwide. Unfortunately, I'm disappointed that the topic for discussion is President Trump's nominee to the Supreme Court, Mr. Neil Gorsuch. LGBTQ people are no strangers to the Supreme Court. We understand the power of the court to affirm or deny our most basic rights. Jim Obergefell and his partner John Arthur had to be medevaced to a tarmac in Maryland in order to marry before John died from ALS because their home state of Ohio refused to allow them a marriage license. Their heartbreak didn't end on that Maryland tarmac. The state of Ohio attempted to erase their marriage by refusing to place Jim's name as a surviving spouse on John's death certificate. By a narrow 5-4 ruling, the Supreme Court validated Jim and John's relationship and extended marriage equality nationwide. By his own words, Judge Gorsuch admitted he would have forced same-sex couples to pay the price of inequality for decades to come. This is why Judge Gorsuch cannot be given a lifetime appointment to the Supreme Court. Time and time again, Judge Gorsuch has employed a dangerous brand of originalism that ignores the essential context and values of each case and the lives that they touch. His record and statements place him squarely in the mold of Justice Antonin Scalia, who consistently demeaned and denied the dignity of LGBTQ people from the bench. Judge Gorsuch has directly questioned the court's recognition of the fundamental right to personal autonomy that has served as a keystone for multiple LGBTQ rights cases. Distressingly, Judge Gorsuch accepted a quote from Justice Scalia in its entirety, equating marriage equality to bestiality, and made no effort to distinguish marriage, one of our society's most sacred traditions, from criminal antisocial behavior. Despite records that Judge Gorsuch is personal friends with LGBTQ people, his choice to embrace this line of reasoning reveals a level of indifference to the LGBTQ community that should be disqualifying for an individual to be appointed to the United States Supreme Court. During his time on the bench, Judge Gorsuch ruled against Rebecca Castle, a transgender woman working for a community college. After being rehired for a second term, Rebecca transitioned and began to use the women's restroom. Halfway through the semester, the school informed her she would have to begin using the men's restroom based on safety concerns. Rebecca was terminated because she refused to subject herself to the dangers of using a men's restroom. As Justice Kennedy made clear in Romer v. Evans, false justifications may never be used to cloak bare animus. That's what happened in Rebecca's case. The Supreme Court justices must be able to discern legitimate government interests from clear hostility to vulnerable communities. Judge Gorsuch's other rulings, such as Hobby Lobby, while not directly addressing the LGBTQ community, have been used to blatantly defend discrimination against LGBTQ people. Amy Stevens is one of these people. After working for a for-profit funeral home for nearly 6 years, she informed the owner she would be transitioning when she returned to work and would be dressing consistent with the women's dress code. Ignoring the employee's strong record, the funeral home owner stripped her of her job based on his belief that it's unacceptable to be transgender. In providing the funeral home a pass from complying with Title VII, the judge in this case adopted Justice Gorsuch's views regarding moral culpability, which callously disregards harm to real people. If this reasoning is widely adopted, it will undermine our core civil rights laws, allowing pervasive discrimination not only against the LGBTQ community, but Americans widely. Areas of law that the majority of Americans view as settled, including marriage equality, are being litigated and debated by groups who are emboldened that a justice like Gorsuch will reopen settled law. The Supreme Court will be asked to hear cases such as those that could decide whether a public school counselor from Mississippi can turn away LGBTQ youth in need, whether City of Houston employees may be stripped of their spousal benefits, or whether moms like Marissa and Tara Pavan must both be listed on their daughter's birth certificate. We might not agree with every decision a Supreme Court justice may make, but we must believe that their commitment to reaching impartial judgments based on fact, not political ideology or bias. And they must agree that LGBTQ people have a fundamental rights protected by the Constitution, and that we, as individuals and a community, are entitled to equal treatment under the law. We need a justice who recognizes our basic equality and shared humanity. Judge Gorsuch has never met this bar, and that is why the Human Rights Campaign opposes his nomination to the Supreme Court.
Thank you, Ms. Warbelow.